of my esteemed colleague, Mr. Payne of New Jersey. I know we didn't always agree on everything policy-wise, but there is no doubt that he was a fierce fighter for his constituency. My prayers remain with his family, his friends, and the residents of his district. I ask you all for a moment of silence for the Honorable Donald Payne, Jr. Thank you. Welcome to our witnesses, and thank you for testifying before the subcommittees on emergency management and technology and counterterrorism, law enforcement, and intelligence, as we examine the use of unmanned aerial systems or drones in emergency response and their impact on the United States law enforcement. I commend each of you for your dedication to improving public safety throughout this country, and we look forward to hearing your testimony. In honor of National Police Week, I also want to thank our nation's police officers for their service and commitment to keeping our community safe. I know there are many in this room, so I'd like to give a round of applause to the men and women of law enforcement. Americans can freely live their lives and sleep well at night because of the unwavering work of our police forces to uphold our laws and make our communities safer. One of my greatest honors was serving as an NYPD detective. And as chairman of the Subcommittee on Emergency Management and Technology, I am committed to supporting our state and local law enforcement officials and ensuring that our nation's bravest and finest have the resources and technologies they need. I have been a supporter of FEMA's suite of preparedness grants for states and localities to harden their defenses against the threat of terrorism, and I hope to hear how state and local police departments are using these grants to acquire drones and other emerging technologies to improve police operations and prepare for new challenges. Throughout the nation, an estimated 1,400 public safety agencies are actively utilizing drones to enhance their operational capabilities. Cities throughout the country have implemented drone as first responder programs to provide police departments with tactical intelligence and situational awareness that informs police operations and emergency response on the ground. In my home state of New York, the great New York City Police Department, who's represented well here today, has used drones to assist with search and rescue efforts, inspect emergency incidents, and provide intelligence for hostage situations, only to name a few, and I am proud to say that the usage of those drones and technology is growing every single day. More recently, following the April earthquake that occurred in New Jersey, the NYPD partnered with the New York City Department of Buildings and used its drones to inspect local bridges for any structural defects. It is clear that the utilization of UAS technology has the potential to reform the way that police departments operate, and I am looking forward to learning how UAS technology cuts emergency response times, saves taxpayer dollars, and enhances police department operations. Drones have the potential to save lives by delivering medical support in rural and densely populated urban areas. Tragically, in 2022, over 75,000 people died from opioids. However, by dropping medication, a life-saving nasal spray, drones have improved emergency response times by arriving on the scene faster than an ambulance. As such, the benefits of drone use in emergency response are far-reaching. As police departments look to expand their use of UAS technology, it is important that they take stock of any unintended national security concerns. According to January 2024 guidance released by the FBI and the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, Chinese-made drones present risks to U.S. national security. However, Chinese-based drone manufacturer DJI makes up the majority of the United States commercial market, and due to its advanced features and affordability, has become increasingly used among public safety agencies. It is important that the federal government and the intelligence community continue to share guidance and relevant security information so that law enforcement agencies and first responders are able to take necessary precautions while not stifling innovative tools. Further, it is important that the United States House of Representatives examine any regulatory barriers to public safety agencies when looking to utilize emerging technologies. We need to work with you to make sure that you have the ability to keep your communities safe. We also need to ensure that those on the front lines, all of our law enforcement men and women, do not have to jump through hoops to be able to use the best tools available. UAS technology has the potential to save lives through efficient response times, providing medical care and offering operational support to police officers with their boots on the ground. I look forward to examining how public safety technology has complemented the United States law enforcement and what the future could hold. I commend those for serving in uniform for their relentless pursuit to save lives and improve emergency response through the usage of drones and other emerging technology. I want to thank our witnesses again for being here. I look forward to hearing your testimony, and more importantly, look forward to working with you to make sure that departments and law enforcement agencies throughout this great nation have every resource they need to do the job that you all do. Is Mr. Carter here? Okay. I now recognize the chairman of Counterterrorism, Law Enforcement Intelligence Subcommittee, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Pfluger, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman Desposito, and we thank the witnesses and agree with the statement previously that we thank you for your service and your family's service as well, because we know that it's a team effort. We're holding this important hearing to examine how first responders are using unmanned aerial systems or drones to improve public safety in communities throughout the United States, while considering security vulnerabilities and privacy concerns. The use of drones by first responders represents a paradigm shift in our country. The ability of drones to access remote or hazardous areas, gather real-time intelligence, and provide aerial support in emergency situations can be, at times, invaluable. In recent years, first responders have increasingly turned to drones to amplify their operations, response times, efficiency, and safety. Law enforcement agencies utilize drones in a variety of ways, from special weapons and tactics or SWAT operations to search and rescue missions, as well as to provide situational awareness and added community safety for major events like the Super Bowl, the World Series, and other sporting events where tens of thousands of Americans gather together. Law enforcement agencies are also bringing policing to the future with programs like mobile drones as first responders, a program to kit out marked patrol units with drones to respond to urgent calls like foot pursuits or violent crimes in progress. Drones are utilized in emergency responses to establish situational awareness of various incidents. For instance, both rural and urban fire departments utilize drones to provide real-time information to reveal the extent of a fire's spread on a burning building. All in all, drones can provide key data to our first responders, allowing for effective decision-making and assisting in public safety and saving lives. While drones are used for emergency responses, recreational use, or for research and commerce purposes, the proliferation of this emerging technology has also introduced new risks to homeland security and to privacy. In particular, malicious actors have used drones domestically to commit crimes, conduct illegal surveillance, industrial espionage, and hinder law enforcement efforts at all levels. Additionally, malicious drone operators continue to attempt to target and disrupt critical infrastructure sectors. For example, the energy and chemical sectors often report suspicious activity by drones, including in my home state of Texas. Criminals, including drug cartels, regularly use drones for smuggling contraband into prisons, cross-border trafficking, and surveillance of U.S. law enforcement. CBP officials have consistently raised concerns that Mexican narco-terrorist gangs are utilizing weaponized drones only a short distance from the U.S. southwest border to conduct nefarious activities. We must do everything we can to protect against these threats, and we must also do everything we can to protect against potential threats to U.S. critical infrastructure and other matters posed by drones that are manufactured in foreign adversarial countries like the People's Republic of China. In fact, DJI, a Shenzhen-based company, is a Chinese-based drone manufacturer that controls nearly the entire global drone market. While DJI has received the most attention from Congress, given the company's dominant market position, Autel, a drone technology company also headquartered in Shenzhen, has increased its footprint in the U.S. The extensive deployment of Chinese manufactured drones in the U.S. critical sectors is a national security concern, and it may increase the risk of unauthorized access to sensitive systems and data. Multiple U.S. federal departments and agencies have already warned against or banned the procurement of certain drones originating in the PRC in recognition of the threats they pose. Most recently, in January of 2024, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency and the Federal Bureau of Investigation shared that Chinese manufactured UAS pose a threat to critical infrastructure and provided guidance for drone procurement. The advisory, in part, states that the use of Chinese manufactured drones in critical infrastructure operations risks exposing sensitive information to PRC authorities, jeopardizing U.S. national security, economic security, and public health and safety. Further, the Department of Commerce placed DJI on the entity list, and the Department of Treasury placed DJI on the Office of Foreign Assets Control's list of Chinese technology businesses that have a nexus to PRC's military-industrial complex. These lists restrict U.S.-based business investments in DJI due to claims of support of human rights abuses against China's Uyghur Muslim population. State, local, tribal, and territorial law enforcement agencies nationwide have increasingly turned to DJI drones without adequately considering the potential cybersecurity risk and broader national security implications. Florida, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Mississippi all successfully have taken steps to prevent law enforcement agencies in their state from procuring drones that are manufactured in the PRC. And I would strongly urge other states to follow suit and find ways to not be dependent on the PRC manufactured drones. As has been stated before, it is not good public policy to rely upon the goodwill of a strategic foreign competitor, which is known for using supply chain control as a weapon of war and is beholden to the PRC's military and national security laws for public safety drones. And I couldn't agree anymore. Moreover, under the PRC's national security law from 2017, all Chinese organizations and citizens, including DJI and other Chinese manufacturers, are required to support, assist, and cooperate with the state's intelligence work. More must be done to ensure that certain foreign adversarial countries, including the PRC, are unable to supply our U.S. government, law enforcement partners, and other entities with their own drones. As the chair of the Subcommittee on Counterterrorism, Law Enforcement, and Intelligence, I plan to continue to examine these issues, and in particular, the potential national security threats posed by drones that have been produced, manufactured, or assembled inside the PRC. I look forward to the hearing from this distinguished panel today. I thank my colleague and the chairman of this subcommittee, Mr. Desposito, for his leadership in this particular issue, and yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Pfluger. I now recognize the ranking member of the Counterterrorism, Law Enforcement, and Intelligence Subcommittee, the gentleman from California, Mr. Correa, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman Desposito. First, I want to associate myself with the comments made by my colleagues regarding the passing of our friend, Congressman Don Payne. Congressman Payne's contributions to this committee, this institution, were incredible. And Don, I just want to say we will miss you. And given that this week is Police Week, I also want to thank our law enforcement witnesses here today for your good work. You are the thin blue line that stands between us and those that would harm our family. I also want to thank our chairman, Mr. Desposito, for serving and protecting the citizens of New York City. Thank you, sir. Turning to our hearing today, Chairman Pfluger, Mr. Desposito, and Ranking Member Carter, I want to thank you for leading the discussion on these unmanned aerial systems, or UASs, in emergency situations. I want to start out by acknowledging that these drones have a long history of being used in military theaters throughout the world. Recently, this technology of UASs has evolved and become adopted by federal and local law enforcement agencies in the emergency response situations. In fact, in my home state of California, the Chula Vista Police Department has become the first to routinely respond to 911 calls using flying drones. Chula Vista's drone program is a first responder This is a concept that's proactive rather than reactive, as the fact that drones are actually remotely stationed around the city and give officers first real-time information before they actually arrive at situations, crime scenes, so to speak. My home district, City of Fullerton Police Department also uses drones to provide support to its officers in their emergency operations. Of course, today I'm going to welcome all of our guests, but especially want to welcome Chief Kevin Fetterman with the Orange County Fire Department. Provides fire not only to the County of Orange, but my own city of Santa Ana. Thank you, Kevin Fetterman, for being here today. The Orange County Fire Authority's drone program has assisted in search and rescue missions during fires, and they are deployed quickly to determine whether there are any victims trapped in homes and what have you. Good tools to use. And in 2021, there was an incident on the 261 toll road where Orange County Fire Authority deployed drones with infrared capability to better assess the scene and distinguish that fire. But you also teamed up with local police, and the drones were able to locate the suspected arsonist who was hiding in the bushes nearby. Unmanned aerial systems are also used at the federal level in planning national special security events, like the Los Angeles Olympics that are coming up in 2028. Clearly, these unmanned aerial drones will play a key role in preserving security for people of Los Angeles. A lot of positives here, but there are some concerns. Surveillance of society, privacy. Are we being monitored every time we turn around? And the answer is probably yes. But by whom is the issue? I've had many neighbors complain to me that they see drones flying over their backyards. So they'll be home having a barbecue, and all of a sudden a drone essentially flies over their private residence. And God knows who's controlling that drone and who's watching our private citizens. I think all of us here today appreciate the benefits of drone technology, especially in emergent situations. But I think we can also agree that such technology has to be deployed in a manner that protects individuals' privacy, civil rights, and liberties. So I'm looking forward to hearing from our witnesses today your testimony about the novel ways that you have used drones and what you see emerging in the future. I think we're just barely scratching the tip of the iceberg here. This is a great technology. Let's hope with your testimony here, we can plot a great future that protects our citizens much better than they're protected today. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I yield.
The gentleman yields. Other members of the subcommittee are reminded that opening statements may be submitted for the record. I am pleased to have a distinguished panel of witnesses before us today on this very important topic. I ask that our witnesses please rise and raise their right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give before the Committee on Homeland Security of the United States House of Representatives will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record reflect that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. Thank you, and please be seated. I would now like to formally introduce our witnesses. First is Deputy Commissioner Kaz Daughtry, who started his career with the New York City Police Department as a police officer in 2006 and currently serves as the New York City Police Department's Deputy Commissioner of Operations, in which he has spearheaded technological innovations within the New York City Police Department, including the expansion of the city's drone program. Chief John Chell serves as the Chief of Patrol Services Bureau, which is the largest bureau in the New York City Police Department and oversees the majority of the department's uniformed patrol officers throughout 8 borough commands and 77 police precincts. And I will take a moment of personal privilege to say that I had the honor to serve with both Deputy Commissioner Kaz Daughtry and Chief of Patrol John Chell, and I will tell you that I am thankful that Mayor Adams has 2 of the finest leading the pack in the NYPD. So, gentlemen, thank you. Mr. Kevin Fetterman, has over 27 years of fire and emergency services experience and currently serves as a division chief at the Orange County Fire Authority, where he oversees the Command and Emergency Planning Division and the Emergency Command Center and participates in the All Hazards Incident Management Team. Mr. Rahul Sidhu is former police officer and paramedic, as well as the co-founder and chief executive officer of Aerodome, a company that provides advanced drone as first response capabilities to public safety agencies. Mr. Sidhu also serves as a member of the Board of Advisors at the University of California and has traveled to help over 250 law enforcement agencies around the country. Thank you, sir, for your service. Mr. Michael Robbins is President and Chief Executive Officer of the Association for Uncrewed Vehicle Systems International, the world's largest trade association for uncrewed systems, autonomy, and robotics in both the commercial and defense sectors. He recently served as co-chair of the Federal Aviation Administration's UAS Detection and Mitigation Aviation Rulemaking Committee and currently serves on a task force with the United States Department of Transportation and on working with a group of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. I thank all the witnesses for being here today. I now recognize Deputy Commissioner Daughtry for 5 minutes to summarize his opening statement.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Chair Desposito and Pfluger, Ranking Member Carter, and the Ranking Member Magaziner, and members of the subcommittee. I am Kaz Daughtry, Deputy Commissioner of Operations of the New York City Police Department. On behalf of Police Commissioner Edward Caban and Mayor Eric Adams, I am pleased to testify before your subcommittee today to discuss the importance of emerging technology in policing and how vital our federal partnerships are to the NYPD public safety mandate. With 8.8 million residents and 62.2 million visitors from every corner of the globe, New York City remains a city of possibility. Our police officers proudly patrol the city's 6,300 miles of streets and highways, 472 subway stations, and 274 public housing developments. In a city constantly on the move, our police department must continue to look forward and adapt. I am proud to have spearheaded a number of strategies to better position our department and our crime-fighting efforts and make New York City the safest big city in America. This call to action requires that we embrace technology. I am proud to point to some of our success stories today. This is a showcase of some of the most exciting technology and highlights of the work of our technical assistants and TARU, also known as our TARU team. They provide expertise in audio-visual technology, operate our unmanned aircraft system, commonly known as drones, and provide our officers with a crucial advantage in emergency management. We are also focused on the importance of securing our ability to mitigate hostile drones over the critical infrastructure in mass gatherings, such as those in Times Square. Our most prolific technology-based innovation has been the department's use of drones. The NYPD has 85 drones. In 2023, our drone uses increased 419.8% compared to 2022. There are, of course, limited circumstances in which a drone can be used. We have self-imposed policies that place limitations and restrictions on our drone uses. Under these policies, drones are not used for warrantless surveillance, routine patrol, traffic enforcement, or immobilizing vehicles of suspects. Drones are not used as weapons and cannot be equipped with weapons of any kind. But they can be used to preserve life. On Friday, April 5th, 2024, after a 4.8 magnitude earthquake was felt throughout the tri-state area, our department ordered our drones be deployed to examine the structural integrity of our bridges and buildings. If we detected an infrastructure flaw, we had the ability to share this information with the Department of Buildings in real time. Drone technology allows us to work closer with our partners, ensuring the community safety. Safety and security is always a priority, and our drones have played a vital role in those endeavors. Each year, hundreds and thousands converge on Times Square, the crossword of the world, to ring in the new year. This year, we utilized our drone technology to give a bird's-eye view to our incident commanders in order to prevent overcrowding. Another example, on Sunday, September 3rd, 2023, 10,000 people rushed the entrance of the Electric Zoo concert, creating a dangerous situation. Due to the safety concerns, the NYPD leadership considered canceling this event entirely. To gain better situational awareness, we ordered the TARU deploy our drone truck. We put a tethered drone up, and live footage showed us that the crowd was massed at the entrance, but there were no danger to life or safety. Using this information, we gathered our resources and we made the decision to allow the show to go on. Likewise, the possibility that hostile actors may use drones in a malicious manner at such a mass gathering is always at the forefront of our concerns. In an effort to support innovation to public safety, 5 precincts have been selected for the drone as First Responder Program, more commonly referred to as DFR. Chosen based on recent crime trends, these precincts will each be outfitted to support 2 drone platforms affixed to their rooftops. 3 of these precincts are in Brooklyn, 1 precinct in the Bronx, and Central Park Precinct, which is located in the borough of Manhattan. The plan to be rolled out in the coming months is to deploy these drones in response to certain 911 calls for service. The pilots, however, will be remotely positioned in our Joint Operations Center at police headquarters rather than on the scene. This information will be provided by the DFR, will be shared with responding officers. DFR will enhance officers' situational awareness as they arrive on the scene and promote officer safety and help deploy resources more effectively. In an effort to find technology-based solutions to reduce the number of vehicle pursuits as to reduce the risk to the public, the department implemented a pilot program utilizing specialized GPS tracking equipment known as Star Chase. By attaching a GPS-enabled device to a vehicle, which can be tracked remotely, this technology prevents us to pursue vehicles while avoiding high-speed chases that endanger the community and our officers. Since April 2023, the limited pilot program has helped us recover 42 vehicles and make 58 arrests. This technology has saved valuable manpower hours while reducing the risks associated with vehicle pursuits. To speak more broadly on our ability to adapt as a department, supported by critical federal funding assistance, the funding that the city and the department receive from federal government, as well as our collaboration with federal partners such as the FBI, ATF, have been a key component in thwarting numerous attacks over the years. By responsibly leveraging technology, we are able to promote public safety in our city, and we appreciate your calling attention to this important issue through today's hearing. Thank you again for this opportunity to testify today. I am happy to answer any questions that you may have had.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner Daughtry. I now recognize Chief Chell for 5 minutes to summarize his opening statement.
Good morning, everybody. Glad to be here. Thank you for having us to discuss this very important topic. I'm here just to describe things we've used the drones for, examples of how it's helped us, quite frankly, in policing in New York City as a game changer to what we're doing. Whether it be earthquakes, New Year's Eve, Columbia University, missing kids found in the water who drowned, shark attacks, the 2,600 protests we've had to deal with since October 7th to mitigate crime control and keep us safe and keep New Yorkers safe, to collapsed buildings and overall technology as a whole that we're using, incorporating drones, incorporating what the Commissioner said about Star Chase, incorporating old technology that we've refurbished, if you will, to add to a more safety and robust crime-fighting mechanism that I believe, that our team believes, is really keeping crime down in New York City and, more importantly, keeping our cops safe and our city safe. So I look forward to discussion from the panel. Any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Chell. I now recognize Chief Fetterman for 5 minutes to summarize his opening statement.
Good morning, Chairman Desposito, Chairman Pfluger, Ranking Member and Ranking Member Correa. I am Kevin Fetterman, the Division Chief over Command and Emergency Planning with the Orange County Fire Authority in Orange County, California. My perspective is that of an all-hazard incident commander and an operational emerging technology lead. And today, I'm here on behalf of the International Association of Fire Chiefs. I appreciate and am humbled by today's opportunity to discuss UAS and this emerging technology's role in emergency response. First, I would like to acknowledge the passing of former member of the committee, Representative Donald Payne Jr. Representative Payne was always a longtime friend of the fire service, and Representative Payne's dedication to public service will be long remembered, and he will be sorely missed. One of the first steps in emergency response is establishing situational awareness. This is the ability to identify and decipher all aspects of an incident. UAS can be a game changer in establishing and maintaining situational awareness at an emergency scene, and here's how. Drones provide real-time data, visual documentation of affected areas by capturing high-resolution aerial images and video. This is vital for coordinating incident operations, such as how they were used at the Surfside building collapse in Florida. Also, drones can offer thermal imaging, like how they were used at the Tustin Hangar fire in California, tracking the fire's progression through the structure in subsequent operational periods. Drones can also take on actionable roles, such as a PSD drone or plastic sphere dispenser drone, which can assist with firing operations to hold critical fire breaks. During the fire in California, which was the state's largest single-source wildfire, a PSD drone was used in a very technically challenging firing operation, and this limited the risk to wildland firefighters on the ground. Clearly, public safety's use of drones is drastically different than commercial users. The key to public safety's use of drones is communication and coordination. In 2001, after a serious mid-air collision in California, fire traffic areas were established as an interagency airspace management tool. Fire traffic areas could also be described as the layering approach to aeronautical management. When non-coordinated drones intersect with an FTA, they impact the fire service's ability to utilize the full spectrum of firefighting aircraft that's available, potentially tipping the scales between containment and catastrophe. In the Western US, the saying is, if you fly, we cannot. Standards such as the FTA and remote identification capabilities known as remote ID can help prevent non-coordinated drones from interfering with critical life-saving missions and prevent explosive fire growth. The needs of firefighters also often demand operations beyond what the FAA's visual line of sight rules permit. For example, UAS need to be deployed over long distances to track wildfire progression or see over the mountain ridge to assess the oncoming fire's impacts. Yet existing regulations on beyond visual line of sight operations remain cumbersome and ambiguous. Failure to address this issue undermines our ability to leverage drones effectively, potentially hindering our capacity to save lives and protect property. We simply cannot afford to be slowed down by procedural delays when lives are on the line. Rapid coordination and streamlined approvals in zero-grid airspace are also crucial. Fire departments require the flexibility to deploy drones swiftly within these zones to ensure this benefit to public safety. By continuing to foster collaboration between stakeholders, we can develop agile solutions that balance safety imperatives with operational realities. The inclusion of AI within the UAS continues to make significant improvements to their operational capabilities. This can be critical in ensuring that aircraft work together in a coordinated and safe manner. AI UAS avoidance technology can be a useful tool to ensure airspace deconfliction. So UAS plus AI equates to increased safety for all public safety responders. The use of drones by emergency responders is continuing to do wonders, especially when it comes to the proper deployment of resources. As described earlier, drones can be used to accomplish tasks that would otherwise be put first responders at high risk. In rural communities, drones are also revolutionizing the way response is being delivered. To enhance the response to everyday emergency calls, drones can now physically deliver automatic external defibrillators or life-saving medications such as Narcan. The application of drone pickup and delivery for medical professionals are endless. I thank you for the opportunity to address the use of UAS during emergency response. This emerging technology is already a life-saving tool for first responders. Congress can also play a role in streamlining public safety's access to UAS. For example, we appreciate the inclusion of provisions in the FAA bill to make it easier for volunteer fire departments to access tethered drones. And in closing, the AUVSI looks forward to working with this committee to ensure that first responders can utilize UAS to better provide service to all of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Fetterman. I now recognize Mr. Sidhu for 5 minutes to summarize his opening statement.
Good morning, Chairman Desposito, Chairman Pfluger, Ranking Member Correa, and esteemed committee members. My name is Rahul Sidhu, and I am the CEO of Aerodome, a company specializing in next-generation drone as first responder technology. With over 14 years of experience in public safety as a former full-time police officer, now reserve officer, crew chief, paramedic, and pilot, I'm here today to discuss the transformative role of unmanned aerial systems in public safety. Unmanned aerial systems, or drones, have been integrated into emergency response for over a decade. These older use cases usually involve first responders taking drones out of their vehicle and deploying them on scene. I'm not here to talk about the past, I'm here to discuss the future. Drone as first responder, or DFR. DFR involves setting a drone from a pre-positioned launch point, like a police station, and flying it directly to the scene of an emergency. These drones are remotely piloted from a central location, often beyond a visual line of sight. Launching drones at the scene of an emergency, even if piloted remotely, is not DFR. In May of 2018, Captain Fritz Reber of the Chula Vista Police Department, now Vice President at Aerodome, invented this concept. In 2020, as a reserve police officer, I followed in Captain Reber's footsteps and developed the nation's second ever DFR program in Redondo Beach, California. Our DFR program virtually reduced our response time by nearly 70% and reduced the number of low priority calls our patrol officers had to respond to by nearly 25%. This decreased high priority response times and increased the apprehension of suspects, making our community safer. Over the past 4 years, the Redondo Beach DFR program conducted over 5,000 DFR flights. The impact of DFR is undeniable. Dozens of agencies are operating true DFR programs today, with dozens more awaiting waivers from the FAA. These programs are vital in crime-fighting strategies, significantly reducing retail theft, violent crime, and property crime. These programs routinely save lives. Just last month, a police department in Texas used the Aerodome DFR system to find and rescue an unconscious victim of a violent assault and rape, who likely would have bled out and died if the drone had not located them in time. These programs are also used to de-escalate and reduce the likelihood of tragic outcomes. Agencies report using DFR drones to identify that subjects who reported to have guns in their hands were only actually holding toys or gun-shaped objects, allowing officers to approach them safely without resorting to deadly force. Most public safety agencies are implementing the first iteration of DFR, known as DFR 1.0. Aerodome is the first to deploy what is referred to as DFR 2.0 technology, which refers to fully remote, automated, multi-drone, 24/7 operations. DFR 2.0 utilizes battery-swapping drone stations and advanced airspace sensors such as radar, and allows for one person to safely launch from multiple drone stations without the need for visual observers. DFR 2.0 allows agencies to operate fully functional DFR programs with a fraction of the staff needed for DFR 1.0. Unfortunately, we live in a time where police staffing is a challenge across the country, which makes this technology even more important. Aerodome's technology is already deployed in cities like Redondo Beach, where the average drone response time to an emergency is now 85 seconds. As with all advancements in public safety technology, we believe police accountability and transparency should not only be considered, but should advance alongside the technology itself. Unlike traditional helicopter-based air support programs, DFR 2.0 systems record and upload entire flights, much like body cams, with flight logs made easily accessible to the public to promote accountability and transparency. Several other key differences emerge when comparing traditional helicopter-based air support programs to highly advanced DFR 2.0 programs. DFR 2.0 can supplement helicopter-based programs, making air support more effective, efficient, economical, environmentally friendly, and more importantly, safer for every community in America. Enhanced safety should be within the reach of all communities, not just the ones that can afford helicopters. As DFR 2.0 systems continue to evolve, it's important to recognize how they can adapt to unique challenges. For example, these systems can be used to detect wildfires faster in wilderness areas, reducing the likelihood of destruction and death. Larger drones capable of carrying water and fire retardants can remotely deploy firefighting payloads onto these fires before they spread, potentially extinguishing them prior to the fire crew arrival. DFR 2.0 can also map this airspace in real time, ensuring that these drones don't pose a threat to manned aircraft, which is important, especially given that my colleague, Chief Fetterman, mentioned this exact issue. In conclusion, I believe the potential for DFR 2.0 to save lives, reduce crime, and increase safety is immense, making the adoption of these advanced technologies a crucial step forward towards a safer future for America. I urge this esteemed committee to support their local public safety agencies as they look to implement this type of technology. I also want to thank my police chief, Chief Joe Hoffman, and my captain, Captain Stephen Sprengel, for being here to support me today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. And now recognize Mr. Robbins for 5 minutes to summarize his opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman Desposito and Chairman Pfluger, Ranking Member Carrera and Ranking Member Carter, and all of the distinguished members of the committee. I am Michael Robbins. I'm the Chief Executive Officer and President of AUVSI, the world's largest trade association and industry association representing uncrewed systems, robotics, and autonomy. Our members create systems that operate in the air, on the ground, and in and on the water, in the civil, commercial, and defense domains. The use of our industry's technology in public safety is unquestionably a positive use case. As you've heard, drones are saving lives in emergency response. They are being relied upon to reduce the risk posed to first responders every day in communities across the nation. As one first responder noted to me last week, drones help public safety make better decisions on actionable intelligence. They are often used as tools to de-escalate situations, reduce response times, provide overwatch, and identifying missing persons, those that are lost and those that are not looking to be found. Drones can augment police forces that are shorthanded, as mentioned, and monitor fires for hotspots. They can enter buildings and disaster zones where it would be unsafe to send in a human, and can deliver life-saving medical supplies to those in need of urgent care. This is just a snapshot of the many public safety use cases. Bottom line, in emergency response, drones have quickly become an effective, critical, life-saving tool. And to be clear, while I believe most of this hearing today is focused on aerial drones, everything I just detailed applies to the ground and maritime drones too. Our member companies in all domains are working with public safety agencies to understand their needs and to develop products that serve the public safety community effectively. And while drones and public safety is absolutely a good news story, there are points of friction. The FAA deserves tremendous credit for the progress made in recent years towards enabling more tactical beyond visual line of sight, or BVLOS, waivers and allowances for drones as first responder programs. That said, the FAA must move forward on the Part 108 BVLOS rulemaking to allow for drone operations to safely scale and grow. AUVSI sincerely appreciates the leadership of the United States Congress with yesterday's passage of the FAA reauthorization bill, which requires the FAA to release a draft BVLOS rule in the next 4 months and a final rule within 16 months after the release of that draft. However, we need not wait 20 months to get this right. AUVSI and our members stand ready to work with the FAA to ensure a timely rule that enhances safety and unlocks the full potential of drones for public safety and other responsible drone users. Funding also remains a point of friction. Across the nation, the demands on public safety are increasing while budgets are decreasing. Accordingly, Congress should enact the Drones for First Responders Act, which was introduced yesterday, which would establish a new revenue-neutral grant program for first responders to purchase secure drones manufactured in the United States or manufactured in allied nations. Further, Congress should also move forward on a robust competitiveness effort to support the U.S. drone industrial base with manufacturing tax incentives, loan guarantees, and other programs to level the playing field for U.S. drone companies against subsidized competition, largely from the People's Republic of China. AUVSI believes that we must move away from being reliant on Chinese companies and intellectual property for our drones, just as the U.S. is doing with other critical technologies. It is not good public policy to rely upon a strategic foreign competitor, which is known for using supply chain control as a weapon of war and is beholden to the PRC's military and national security laws for public safety drones. Accordingly, a reasonable, common-sense transition is required to ensure these critical, life-saving tools are available to public safety, while at the same time we move rapidly to diversify supply lines outside of China. AUVSI is in the middle between those that want to preserve the status quo, which is not working very well, and those that want to bring about an immediate ban on PRC drones, which would be extremely problematic for public safety. Our objective is simple: to support a strong and competitive industrial base and to build global leadership in this critical industry that is relied upon by so many agencies and enterprise organizations, including public safety. Grant programs for public safety, like the Drones for First Responder Act and AUVSI's other drone competitiveness priorities, will ensure public safety has the tools they need to do their jobs, and demand is generated for platforms produced outside the PRC, which will kickstart the flywheel for innovators and manufacturers. This is vital to reduce risk and to build the industrial base that is sorely lacking for all users, including public safety. Thank you for your time. I look forward to discussing these topics as well as others over the course of the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Members will be recognized by order of seniority for their 5 minutes of questioning. An additional round of questioning may be called after all members have been recognized. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes of questioning. New York City Mayor Eric Adams has stated that deploying drones in the utilization of public safety cost only 17 cents per launch, whereas a helicopter would cost $2,200 per flight. So I think we would all clearly understand that utilizing drones are a step in the right direction. Places like City of New York, where the mayor is working to crunch numbers and save money. But while we begin to utilize drones, we do have the concerns, as many of my colleagues have mentioned. We've seen guidance released by both CISA and the FBI where there are risks posed to U.S. national security by Chinese manufactured drones. Deputy Commissioner Daughtry, what measures have the NYPD taken to ensure that when utilizing drones, that information is kept safe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the question. So the measures that we have taken, we put in place is, number one, this department, under this administration, we're looking to move away from purchasing DJI drones. And we share, this agency, as well as the police commissioner, shares the same sentiments from this committee, that there is some security concerns with the DJI drones, and we're looking to phase them out of our fleet. As far as your question, the safety measures that we have taken in place, we have, when a drone is recording, it goes from up to down. So it goes from the recording, goes back to our SD card, which then goes into our Gentex system. And it's like a firewall, basically, so that nobody can go in there and tamper with the video data. But to answer your question, we're looking to phase out DJI drones. We're not looking to purchase any more of them.
So in the process of phasing out the DJI drones, you are confident, which I know the answer is yes, and we are confident that none of the information collected by drone usage is compromised in the New York City Police Department.
That is 100% correct. No, it's not.
Okay. Your testimony also mentions that the NYPD plans to roll out DFR programs in 5 police precincts based on crime analysis. Can you just briefly explain what a game changer that will be, and really the idea that New York and others are setting a precedent on how we will continue to fight crime?
Yes, so we're actually in the testing phase. I have a big vision for the drones in our department, but the DFR program, we have what's called in our department ShotSpot. I believe a lot of other municipalities in the country uses it also. So when the ShotSpotter is activated, it will send the coordinates, the longitude and the latitude, to the actual drone in a box, the drone station, which I just, in my testimony, where in a couple in the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Central Park. When the drone receives that alert, it will then send an alert to the pilot, which will be sitting in our Joint Operations Center. He'll do his pre-flight inspection, and then hit send. The drone will then autonomously fly to the ShotSpotter location. Officers will have the ability to go into their department-issued smartphone, pull up the job, look at the job as in real time, and click the link to see what the drone is seeing before they even get there.
Amazing. Chief Chell, I know that you mentioned some of it in your opening testimony, but I'd like to get into a little bit deeper. What are the limitations that you're seeing in the usage of drones in law enforcement, and what could members of Congress, what legislation can we provide that'll make your restrictions, require you to have less restrictions?
Well, we're looking first and foremost for drone mitigation, to have the ability to take a drone down electronically. So again, things I'm going to talk about here are real-life examples. So the funeral of Detective Dillon on Long Island, there were thousands and thousands of cops, elected officials, all lined up down the street, and we made an announcement to remove any drones from the area. But there was one drone that we couldn't get down. From a safety point of view, we don't know who has that drone, what they're doing, what they intend to do. And in this case, nothing happened, but we have to deal at a level where when you have that many people in an area, especially police officers, community elected officials, we have to have the ability to take that drone down safely and mitigate any harm to us.
Great. Yeah, and I know that we've had conversations prior with Commissioner Weiner, and that was some of the language that we inserted into the FAA reauthorization to try to help with you guys being able, and law enforcement in general, having the ability to take down drones. My time has expired. I now recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Correa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Really enjoyed presentation, gentlemen. Emergency responders tell us they need access to drones that are affordable, easy to operate, customizable, and easy to replace. It's men and women who are out there putting their lives on the line for us every day, whether they're police officers, firefighters, EMTs, have told us that they're aware of some of the security risks of Chinese drones. Are there any security risks? That would be my first question. And they take preventative measures to make sure if there are security issues, they're minimized. But at the end of the day, these foreign-made drones seem to hit the sweet spot. Cost, performance, being able to replace them. Mr. Doherty, any thoughts? I want to ask each one of you the same question.
And I agree with you. We're working with American-based companies, Skydio, Nightingale, I can go on and on. We want, and I have reached out to the CEOs of this company personally, have been on calls with them personally, tell them that the DJI drone performs better than your drones, however, you have to get to that standard. I want our American-based companies, Skydio, Nightingales, to have the same abilities that the DJI drones have. Payloads, parachutes.
But right now, we're looking at a situation that those foreign-made drones may have capabilities the locals can't offer on that cost-by-cost basis. And we're talking about a weapon, a tool that our frontliners need to protect our lives, save innocent lives out there. That's essentially what we're talking about. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chell, any thoughts?
Absolutely. Like I said in my opening statement, what drones have done for us as an agency in protecting the lives and property of New York City has been a game changer for us. I mean, like I can go down the list. I mean, let's talk about the hot topic of protests. The ability for me as an incident commander to see what I'm up against in terms of volume of people, crimes being committed. When we have to take back a campus, I'll go right to Columbia University. The fog was low that night. We didn't have any aviation support. We had to utilize our drones to keep us safe. We had to take back the building, rooftop surveillance, so we didn't take any air mail, which was coming at us. Just really provided us with the safety to actively take back that campus with minimal to zero incidents whatsoever.
That's important. Thank you very much. Mr. Fetterman, back home, I'm looking at my city of Santa Ana, looking at a multi-million-dollar deficit. City of Orange, same thing. So I'm trying to figure out here, foreign-made drones, cost-effectiveness. Can we figure out a way to minimize the security risks and continue to use this technology to save lives and protect frontliners?
Ranking Member Correa, thank you for the opportunity to address this. While certainly the IAFC and Orange County Fire are working diligently with American-made manufacturers to seek American-made drones, and certainly the fire service as a whole would prefer to buy American-made, we also are dealing with the reality on the ground and the nuances of the importance of life safety and the tool that drones and information that they provide to us are critical. And so we actively take steps when we're utilizing our current drones to ensure that we're not flying over critical infrastructure or in scenarios that may compromise security. We take great lengths to ensure we don't identify any personally identifiable information.
Would it be safe to say, Mr. Fetterman, that you're buying the best product at the best price, protect lives, and protect your men and women in uniform?
Yeah, absolutely, sir. We will always seek to buy the best products to keep the most available.
Thank you very much. I'm running out of time. Mr. Sidhu, I'm going to ask you not as a CEO, but as a first responder, police officer, emergency tech. This stuff is emerging now. This stuff is exploding. But right now, given what's out there, you work with Chula Vista, you work with Redondo Beach. What can we do to minimize the security risk? And do we continue to buy these foreign-made products until we reach that level that American products are as good as these foreign ones?
Ranking Member Correa, thank you for the question. I would start by saying, I'm a first responder first. I'm an executive in the American drone industry, and as much as I want to say it, I have to, be honest and say that as an industry, we have not yet caught up to the capabilities of some of the drones in question. And as a first responder, I think it's the most important thing to make sure that our first responders have the best technology they have at any given moment. But it's also our responsibility as an industry to catch up and build products that can provide that level of security that we discussed without the need for foreign adversaries, and ensure the first responders choose those products over the products available today.
And I would ask Mr. Robbins the same question, except that I'm out of time, sir. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Gentleman's time's expired. I now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Pfluger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'll kind of pick up on that line of questioning. I think, we know the benefits of what drones can do when it comes to the operations and the intelligence and the situational awareness. And so I'll start with you, Mr. Robbins. Looking back at HSI's 2017, August of 2017's warning, maybe kind of talk us through what that warning meant and what it means for these DJI and other Shenzhen or PRC based companies to utilize those drones. What is the risk right now that we face with those drones?
Sure. Thank you very much for that question, Mr. Chairman. I think the risk, as we lay out in our testimony, is twofold. First, as it relates to public safety, while the public safety officers here and many that I spoke to over the last couple of weeks have talked to me about, they're obviously more concerned about their tactical day-to-day job and saving the lives of the public and of blue lives and firefighters and others, public safety. Of course, that makes sense. The challenge comes when they are almost completely reliant upon a foreign adversary for this technology. And as we've seen, as I noted in my testimony, and you did as well, sir, this foreign adversary often uses supply chain control as a weapon of war. And this is not a theoretical concern. This is a very real concern. In December of 2023, Altel Robotics, which you mentioned in your opening statement, sent forward a software update to their drones, rendering them inoperable in what they deemed as conflict zones. So that included Gaza, that included Ukraine. It also included the entire nation of Taiwan, and it included the border region between India and China. Those are not current conflict zones. I'm in the Navy Reserve, I think I'd know. So that clearly aligned with PLA policy and CCP policy and was not something that Altel Robotics would have done on its own. Yeah. So we have that risk where if we're going to be reliant upon a foreign nation for these drones, we're putting ourselves at risk. In terms of data security, there's absolutely a risk there. That's not AUVSI saying that. That is the FBI, that is CISA, that is the Department of Treasury, that's the Department of Commerce, Department of Defense. That is actually the United States Congress, because you have banned the use of PRC drones by the Department of Defense. And recently, in December of last year, you banned them for all of the federal government.
And let me pick up there with Mr. Sidhu. Talk to us about the steps that have been taken to mitigate those data risk vulnerabilities. And then I've got another couple of questions for the other side of the table after that.
Well, first of all, I would say that, I rely on the experts within the federal government to make those determinations. And I do understand the risks of, as my colleague mentioned, of these foreign adversaries potentially connecting or controlling hardware that our public safety personnel use today. When you talk about data security, there's data that lives and is exported from the hardware itself, the drones, and that is something that the drones are reliant on, and that security that posed by the drones. On the software side, companies like Aerodome are beholden to ensuring the data that reaches our software is secure and is not able to be, or is not vulnerable, and we take multiple steps to ensure that that's the case.
Commissioner, I appreciate you talking to us about the NYPD and getting away from the purchasing of DJI drones, and I think that's something that is very important. So I'd like the two of you, both Commissioner and Chief, to just talk to us about what you're going to use, what's the utility today of the drones, and explain some of the benefits of why we should be using these, specifically on the police force.
You want to go first?
So let's bring it to children for, I mean, I got a bunch of topics. Let's bring it to children, like what we could do, what we have done. In New York City, we've seen a phenomenal of young teenagers driving, jumping on top of moving trains on the outside and TikToking it to get millions of views. And unfortunately, they've lost their lives. So in one program, we have the drone that follows the 7 line that goes to old, if you're a Met fan, it follows the train back and forth.
Sorry, I'm not.
And we are able to see kids jump on the train. We have cops down below running parallel to them, and we pull them off the train and hopefully save their lives. When you look at the beach situation, just look at the beach. We had a shark attack last year in New York City for the first one in decades. That for the next couple of days, we were able to see sharks in the water and close the beach to help prevent people getting bit by a shark, obviously. And then just in terms of purposes, what can we do on a beach? AEDs, payloads that could drop a flotation device if a young child gets caught in riptides. We have that a lot in New York City also, where after the lifeguards go home, the kids go in the water, they don't understand how to deal with riptides. So the speed, the accuracy, the cost, and the bottom line, trying to save lives in that situation is just, we can just keep going with it. It's a game changer to protect the children of New York City.
My time has expired. If you don't mind, maybe reply in writing, and then also for the panel, what I'd like to understand is when you're using these for your benefits, but they're also flying around and they pose a risk if you don't know who is flying them or what they're carrying. The payloads could differ. So also for the record, would like to hear your thoughts on the attribution and also the anti-drone defense that we have at major sporting events, like you mentioned, ball games and et cetera. My time has expired. Yield back.
Yes.
Gentlemen's time's expired. I now recognize the newest member of the subcommittee and committee from New York, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Chairman Desposito, Ranking Member Carter and Cray, for holding this hearing. And thank you to each of you for your testimony, for your leadership, and for keeping our streets and communities across the nation safe. It's clear from your testimony and my conversations with first responders in my district in Western New York that the technology improvement of drones can make them an effective tool for emergency responses. You're speaking today of keeping the law enforcement and other first responders safe on the job in a moment's notice in an emergency. I have a few questions. I want to start with you, Mr. Sidhu. Out of Western New York, we deal with inclement weather quite often. And just a couple of years ago, we had a horrific storm that killed dozens of people. It was a blizzard across this nation. We were hit particularly hard in Buffalo. When it comes to the use of drones and the effectiveness in evaluating and assessing damage following a severe winter weather event, can you speak to that and their use and effectiveness in that regard?
Yeah, so I believe that drones, when used to find, for example, patients in need of care, missing people, people in need of rescue after a natural disaster like you described, it's a fantastic use case. And it has been used for that purpose routinely. Many of these drones are equipped with thermal cameras that can see something that the human eye might not be able to see. If someone is wearing a white t-shirt and they're laying in the snow, it might be difficult, for example, to see them with the human eye, even through using a helicopter, or just walking around and finding them, where the drones can actually be utilized for that purpose. I think that variety of natural disasters that have occurred in the United States, our response would have been improved had the technology been available at the time.
Thank you. I want to switch over to our friends from the NYPD. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for your testimony and your leadership. I also want to recognize Mayor Adams for his leadership and commitment to public safety. I know his team has joined us here today. Currently, the Department of Homeland Security lacks department-wide policy regarding the law enforcement use of drones, but has developed best practices to not only utilize them, but to protect privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties. Deputy Commissioner, what can be done to ensure that you and your brothers and sisters in law enforcement and emergency management departments are able to safely and securely utilize these drones?
Yeah, no, thank you for the question. We have policies in place where when our drones are up, our legal team is actually monitoring them to making sure that we are not violating anybody's rights, that zooming in on people's faces. We have a robust policy plan in regards to the drones in this department. We just can't arbitrarily fly drones throughout the city without permission from the chief of department's office. So there are a ton of policies in place in regards to that.
And is there a need for more comprehensive training and supports from the federal government to your agency?
In order to, you have to be you have to have the FAA 107. You're 107 to fly a drone. So members of our uniformed members go get that on themselves, and then they go through a 2-week robust training plan with our technical assistants, our drone experts in the department.
And where would investments from the federal government be most impactful?
Definitely in technology, more U.S. based drones, and would help you guys if we can get the ability to we only have detection capabilities, but if we can get the ability from the federal government to actually intercept and take down a drone, a hostile drone, and have it returned to home, that would be extremely beneficial to this department.
So you need federal clearance to do that?
Yes.
And you need investment into the agency?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Back to you, Mr. Sadhu. Again, we're seeing a proliferation of drones over both the southern border and the northern border. There was a report even today of drone technology used over the northern border in my community in Western New York to smuggle narcotics and other illicit drugs. What advice do you have to our government to help to mitigate this and to give the resources necessary to our frontliners?
Well, I completely agree with my colleagues in New York here that, number one, we need to invest more heavily in the technology that's able to detect those drones and then able to mitigate those drone threats in real time. I don't believe that the reality of the situation, I believe the reality is that in a local environment, like at a city where a rogue drone is going to be utilized in the next 2 minutes to attack something, that the federal government will have the resources to zap that drone out of the air. So we need to be able to empower our public safety agencies to have not just the resources to be able to defend themselves from drone attacks, but the clearance to be able to do so as well.
Thank you. I yield my time.
The gentleman's time's expired. I now recognize from the state of Alabama, Mr. Strong.
Thank you, Chairman Desposito. I appreciate each of you for being here today. As you've highlighted, drones are a powerful force multiplier for law enforcement and have drastically improved both officers and community safety. In my district, one police department's UAS team flew nearly 3,000 flight missions last year with 37 certified pilots. Similar to stories we have heard today, UAS have enabled the department to locate and apprehend violent suspects, quickly respond to traffic accidents, missing persons, natural disasters, civil unrest, and gather valuable intelligence, size up the scenes to determine resources that are needed, and most importantly, protect the officers and the public. Mr. Daltrey, Mr. Sadhu, as both of you worked within your respective departments to establish drone and first responder programs, what were the most significant challenges that each of you faced?
I believe that many of the challenges come down to first learning how to utilize these drones. I have experience as a pilot, so it's easier for me to understand what drone systems to use and what's important. I believe challenges exist when it comes to incorporating these drones in the existence of your policies and then choosing how to, which drone stations to use and how to be able to monitor airspace. There's a variety of technological gaps that are now being filled with companies, but you have to become an expert very quickly as a police commander to be able to install a program like that. And then you have to get buy-in from the community, and I think that's extremely important. To go to the community and say, this is what we're gonna use these drones for, and you can hold us accountable to ensure that we're using them for the right purposes.
Thank you.
Yes, and finding drones that can do all of the things that we need. That's the one. And the second challenge that I personally see in speaking to our drone teams are when there are, I guess, mass gatherings, when everybody's on their cell phone. Sometimes there's frequency interference with cellular interference, where the drone will lose connectivity to the satellite, and they can't fly, they can't push forward a little more until they reconnect with the satellite, but that's due to the interference from the cell towers and cell phones in the area.
Thank you. What is the one thing Congress can do better to support departments seeking to establish such programs and continuity of equipment?
Like we said before, drone mitigation. If we can have the ability to take down a hostile drone or a drone that has not been identified, that didn't follow our rules and regulations that we have set forth, where they apply for a permit in the city of New York, they just go out there and arbitrarily put their drone up. To be able to take that drone down and not have to wait for the FAA or wait for, let's use a perfect example, July 4th. July 4th, 4th of July, Independence Day in New York City. The fireworks display is on the river. A lot of times we see outside people just put drones up so they want to get a nice picture of the fireworks show. The FBI comes in purposely for that, because they know that there's going to be hostile drones in there, and they take them down. Instead of having somebody come from Washington all the time, to be able to have the ability to do that ourselves, I think would be extremely beneficial to us, and I think any agency in the United States of America.
Mr. Daltrey, man, I like you. I'm gonna tell you, we gotta take you to the southern border with us. If you know right now, border security, for every one drone they're flying, the Mexican cartel's flying 17. I like what you're talking about. You shouldn't have to have federal authorization to take that bad drone down. And you know what we're dealing with at that southern border, but I like how you answer that question. Mr. Sidhu, are you aware of any police department that have received rejections from the FAA to fly their drones outside of direct line of sight in an official capacity?
Congressman, yes. I believe that multiple agencies have applied and have not obtained said waivers. I think that that's one of the largest hurdles in scaling these programs nationwide, is to create a reasonable and scalable process with the FAA for a public safety agency to be able to obtain a beyond visual line of sight waiver without a visual observer, by demonstrating that they have the ground sensors like radar, et cetera, to be able to safely operate. I believe that that needs to be a more scalable and easy thing for agencies to do.
So that's kind of the common reason the FAA rejects police department's application for certificates of waiver, authorization, or beyond visual line of sight, BVLOS waivers. What can Congress do to make this easier for police departments to acquire these authorizations?
Well, I believe Congress has taken a meaningful step with the FAA Reauthorization Act. I believe with that act, the FAA has a few months essentially to come up with a plan and show Congress that they are going to make meaningful steps to taking these BVLOS waivers and making them scalable and easy for these agencies to apply for and receive.
As you mentioned, I guess, Mr. Robinson, in your testimony, Part 108 of the BVLOS rule could have the potential to safely unlock scalability for public safety and drones as first responder missions, but that could be months away. What can be done today to ensure departments are able to safely scale and grow operations?
Templatize the approval process, make it standard. By and large, as my colleague noted, for the most part, a lot of the DFR programs are very, very similar. The airspace challenges are similar. The technology exists to integrate these into the airspace safely now. And if the FAA were to templatize the process, it could lead to much greater operations and, as a result, much greater safety for our citizens.
Thank you. The other thing is, I can tell you this, we have the capability to block, drop, or intercept other drones. We've got to take advantage of doing that. I thank each of you for being here. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
The gentleman, time's expired. I now recognize from the state of Louisiana, Mr. Higgins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Mr. Robbins, you are the president and CEO of the Association for Uncrewed Vehicle Systems International, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You're an expert on drones, could we say, for the American people watching?
I do my best.
What's this technology look like in a decade, man?
Wow. If I knew that, I would...
Take us there. You know that better than I. I see
drones are
silent drones.
Sure.
I see drones that are virtually invisible with incredible technologies of optics, including thermal and incredible clarity.
Yeah, I
see
think you
drones
may
that
come to work on a
that
drone.
have AI programs that coordinate with each other.
Yeah, with the scalability of the industry with AI, the potentials are almost limitless. I think you may come to work on a drone that is operated to move people safely. I think it transforms the logistics industry and makes the movement of goods and services much quicker, much safer, much more efficient. I think our entire transportation economy is going to be upended by autonomy and ultimately make things much safer. I think it's also the case for warfighting, sir, which I know is of particular interest to you.
So I concur. Regular Americans we're quite capable of observing emerging technologies, and we envision what that technology might look like over the course of time. And this is where the concerns of a constitutionalist like me would be part of the narrative, and indeed they are. I'm a member of Congress. I serve we the people, and I've sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution, and that means protecting the freedoms of the citizens that I serve. So we have a variance of responsibility to deploy technology depending upon the mission. For instance, the mission at the border, I would encourage you the wide use of the most advanced drone systems in the world for border security, because at the border, if you're coming into our sovereign territory as a child of God is not an American citizen, you have no expectation of privacy. There's no reasonable expectation of privacy if you're crossing into the sovereign territory of another land. You're expecting to be observed. However, in our police departments, Chief, Mr. Daugherty, American citizens do and should enjoy a reasonable expectation of privacy as we embrace our freedom to travel the land. And we have concerns, some of us, Chief, about where is that barrier? You said, Chief, I wrote the quote, you said we won't compromise security. In the effort to not compromise security using drone technology, are you willing to compromise freedom? Are you willing to compromise Fourth Amendment protections? Are you willing to compromise an American's expectation of privacy as we walk about the city of New York?
No, absolutely not. In our opening statements, we have strict self-imposed restrictions that we put upon ourselves as it relates to expectation of privacy, people's backyards, no facial recognition, just not randomly going on daily patrol with a drone just to arbitrary.
A public street.
Not unless it's mitigating circumstances. We have about 10 of them that we've clearly defined.
You see what I'm saying, though, Chief?
Absolutely. We want people to think they're being watched.
Throughout the history of mankind, and we're entering an era now where things are changing. Are you familiar with the observer effect and the Hawthorne studies? Basically, if you observe something, it necessarily is changed and altered. Even at the quantum level, tests and studies show that subatomic matter changes its action and behavior when observed. There's something very significant about our moments of privacy that we anticipate and enjoy. And I just think it should be part of the narrative, Mr. Chairman. I support this technology for the right reasons, but also advise caution amongst my colleagues as we move forward. I yield. Thank you for allowing me to wave onto your committee.
The gentleman's time's expired. Mr. Higgins, thank you for your service as well. I now recognize my good friend from Texas, Mr. Nels.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for allowing me to also wave onto your committee today to speak on this important issue. As a former law enforcement official, 30 years, folks, retired sheriff, large county in Texas, I'm pleased to speak today about the importance of unmanned aerial drones in providing public safety. I had drones. I thought they were fantastic, expensive ones, like $35,000, $40,000. Would tether them to the top of my command center, give us a good view of the area. Fantastic. Everyday law enforcement officers and first responders around our great nation are forced to deal with some of the most difficult and dangerous situations. Whether it's a firefighter racing into a burning building or a police officer responding to gang violence, having real-time information is invaluable. The unknown and high-risk scenarios has the potential to lead to more unintended consequences and often one of the most dangerous things to consider. In high-stress situations where seconds can be a matter of life or death, it is imperative that we provide our brothers and sisters in blue the best technology, weaponry, and tools to combat violent criminals. Every police officer around the country would prefer to de-escalate high-risk situations. To achieve this objective, law enforcement needs to gain situational awareness of the threats they face, and drones provide real-time data in responding officers about the threats they face and where they should respond. So I have a bill. It's called the Drone Research and Innovation for Law Enforcement Act, and that would permit small unmanned aircraft pilot research for public safety. Specifically, the bill would establish a pilot research study managed by the FAA's Center of Excellence for unmanned drones utilized for public safety. The goal of the study is to evaluate the potential of non-lethal de-escalation drones as a tool for state and local law enforcement during high-risk events. It just makes sense. I believe de-escalation drones provide officers more distance from dangers and time to address them. After completing the study, the bill directs the administrator of the FAA to initiate a rulemaking process that could approve the use of non-lethal de-escalation unmanned aircraft. So, Mr. Daughtry, first I want to thank you, sir, for your service. And
Thank you.
Can you explain how law enforcement would utilize, let's just say, a drone in a hostage situation, or God forbid, my friend, a school shooting where the perpetrators have bunkered into a compound?
I'm gonna give you a real life example. A couple of months ago, there was a barricaded situation where our emergency service units were positioned outside the door. They did everything to try to mitigate this incident. They sent in the Scout, which is a robot where they go in and look. The guy put a towel over it. They sent in like a little ball where it has a camera where they can see the guy threw it out. We sent in a drone in the window, and they seen that he had the weapon, and the guy smacked it with the broom. But then that was in a diversion where he was distracted, and our team went in and safely took the individual into custody. So these drones are a game changer, and they are saving our officers' lives.
Without a question. And, you know, when we would have high-risk warrants, we would send a drone overhead just to evaluate the situation, see if there's anybody going in and going out. Drones are absolutely a wonderful way. I think it saves lives. I think it saves officers' lives. And I'll even take it to the next step and say eventually we should put non-lethal on drones. Use one to tase somebody. You know, how are you going to knock that drone out of the air that's 10 feet above you? If you have a camera on it and you can communicate with that drone and that drone can communicate with that suspect, I think it's going to save officers' lives. But that's a whole nother story. But tell me a little bit about the Star Chase. What do you think about that?
Star Chase is another tool. Under this administration, under our police commissioner, our mayor, we're not going to have a city of lawlessness. And I think after COVID, that the criminal element just became emboldened. They're not stopping for the police on regular minor traffic stops. So if a car takes off or if a stolen car comes in, we get a hit from one of our LPR readers throughout one of the areas throughout the city. Once the officers behind that vehicle, they activate their lights and sirens, the vehicle takes off. Instead of us going through a pursuit throughout New York City, as you know, 8.6 million people, the officers will go behind the vehicle, shoot a dart. It sticks on the back of the car. We'll fall back. They're tracking it in our Joint Operations Center real time. Also, the officers are tracking it live on their cell phones as well as our aviation unit. When that vehicle stops, the team will move in and converge on and safely take him into custody.
I think that makes total sense too, because officers don't like to get into high-speed chases. They don't want to do that because they're risking their own lives as well. So eventually you have that technology. Eventually you just wait for the guy to go home.
Yeah.
Wait for the guy to get home, or stop in a certain area, in an unincorporated area, and then try to take that unit down. But the technology that we have today, and specifically drones, using the drones that we've had, putting one in every sergeant's car. I mean, you can get them, they're relatively cheap. And then to be able to transmit that information down to the MDC inside police in their cars or back in a command center, I think is a tool. I think it's a step in the right direction, and we need to do everything we possibly can to support the use of unmanned drones in law enforcement. God bless you guys for what you do. Have a good police week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nels. We are going to do a second round of questioning, so Mr. Nels, if you have anything else that you want to stick around for. So, Mr. Robbins, or Mr. Sidhu, either one. So I think we've come to the conclusion that drones are making a drastic improvement to the way that public safety is handled in this country, whether it's in the fire service or as we've heard in our law enforcement agencies throughout this nation. But there are hurdles that we need to clear. And we've had this conversation. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, I've had conversations with Commissioner Daughtry and Commissioner Weiner from the NYPD, and we've included language in the FAA reauthorization to assist in giving the authority to take down the drones, as well as legislation to support domestic drone manufacturers. So to Commissioner Daughtry's point, we can begin to move from depending on Chinese technology and actually utilizing American drone technology in order to keep these communities safe. So there are roadblocks ahead. And I know that if a law enforcement agency wants to launch a DFR program, they have to acquire a certificate of authorization from the FAA. They have to have someone who can fly the drone. So we know how to get there, but there obviously are still those hurdles. So this really is for both of you. If you could lay out the steps that Congress needed to take from this point forward in order to give all of you, and specifically the law enforcement world, the ability to utilize drones to the full capacity, give me the top 3 steps that we need to take.
Thank you very much for that question, Mr. Chairman. I think getting more of the technology into the hands of law enforcement is step number 1. So as I mentioned in my opening statement, yesterday the Drones for First Responders Act was introduced. It's a revenue-neutral program to allow first responders to acquire more drones and more drone systems. And it's not unique to just the drone, it's also the training, all the maintenance that goes along with that. So that would be step 1. That would help, that would go a long way towards helping these great public officials acquire more of this technology. Number 2 is oversight of the FAA and ensuring that the FAA is sticking to the BVLOS rulemaking timeline and ensuring in that gap between now and the rule comes out that they are making continued progress on BVLOS waivers and exemptions. And number 3 would be to support a broader drone competitiveness initiative to level the playing field for U.S. drone manufacturers so they can compete against subsidized, unsecured competition from China. Thank you, sir.
Real quick, talk about the oversight of the FAA.
So I think the FAA is doing an admirable job with the resources that they have and with the allowances that they have at the moment, given existing authorities. Every time a public safety community wants to go forward with a new program, they're asking for an exemption from the current rules. And an exemption within the FAA's bureaucracy, frankly, is a challenging thing to do.
Everything in the FAA is a challenging thing to do.
There's some great public officials there, and as I made outreach calls to public safety officials, the first question I asked all of them is, how's your relationship with the FAA? And time again, I heard, it's good. There are good people there, like Mike O'Shea and others, that are trying to make progress on our behalf. So I don't want to completely knock the agency, because there are people that are trying to help these officials. But like with anything else within the larger federal government, they need oversight. To Congressman Higgins' standpoint, when you're observed, the Hawthorne effect, your decisions and what you do changes, the more Congress provides oversight on the FAA, the better their behavior will be, the more they'll do to support public safety.
So I ask that because there are members of this committee, like myself and others, who have the honor to serve on both Homeland Security and Transportation and Infrastructure, and I think that this is an opportunity for us to sort of, take what we've learned from both committees and put it to good use so that we can provide the resources that law enforcement and the fire service need from throughout the country to actually begin to utilize drones in their full capacity.
Yes, absolutely, sir.
And Commissioner Daughtry, how is your relationship and the intergovernmental relationship between the NYPD and the FAA?
So the FAA came down to our Tyrol base. We gave a demonstration on our Drone as First Responder program, our Drone in a Box, and the feedback was very well. They said that they would like to use the NYPD as the model for the rest of the country when we get this up and fully running. We're going to be the model police department.
Excellent. My time's expired. I now recognize Mr. Correa from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, just talking to Mr. Desposito here, he has some legislation regarding the FAA and giving you authority to address the issue of possibly hostile drones. I want to thank him for that work. Mr. Fetterman, thinking about back home, we have 2028 Olympics. We have a World Soccer match coming up in the Americas. Back home, we have Disneyland that's about to build a third park. We have the OC Vibe, a huge complex that's under construction. So the challenges there in terms of safety are there. My question would also be, what do you need from the federal government to make sure you have the tools to use this emerging technology, these drones, to keep our public safe, and number two, to protect us from hostile drones?
Thank you. That was an excellent question. Appreciate the opportunity. Number one, we would really appreciate the additional or the reinstitution of the UASI and SHISHCAP funding. With that, purchase authority for drones within that. And I've heard from my partners with the IAFF and the IAFC, the Robotics Committee, that they would really appreciate a national curriculum, national standard training curriculum for the fire service, potentially to be hosted by the National Fire Academy under the USFA. And lastly, what the drones provide is information. And so with that, common operational platforms, support for common operational platforms such as SARCOP, Search and Rescue Common Operational Platform, those types of areas would provide a tremendous amount of capability for us.
Mr. Azdu, I want you to follow up on that, the answer to my question there, which is common operational platforms. In your opinion, I mean, foreign manufacturers right now a little bit ahead of us in terms of these technologies. Where do we start in terms of moving forward to catch up and also to adopt, to address the needs of our locals in terms of common platforms, so on and so forth?
Well, first I would start by answering the second part of your question, which is the need for local agencies to be able to utilize this. I think there's actually quite an overlap between an agency putting up a DFR 2.0 system like I referred to, and then being able to protect the airspace, not just for events that occur, but generally speaking above them. That overlap exists because in order to fly a drone beyond visual line of sight without a visual observer, you need to place ground-based sensors like radar, et cetera, that can detect drones and aircraft in that airspace to allow the drone to fly miles away to be able to do this safely. And so a lot of the work that gets done into putting this in the hands of local agencies where they will put the infrastructure to be able to detect drones and manage their airspace up can kind of, essentially do both things at once. And I think that if we're able to go out to these agencies and support their ability to deploy that infrastructure, to detect drones and detect aircraft and support their ability to do these DFR 2.0 programs, it's a two birds, one stone initiative. To answer your first question about what we can do to support the American industry, I think American manufacturers on the drone side, we need to support them in every way we can. We need to provide them with the ability to catch up financially. These foreign adversaries have dumped quite a bit of money into these companies, of the billions of dollars over the course of 10 years. I also urge that it won't happen overnight. We're not there yet, and it will take some time. It will take financial support. It'll take the ability for them to be allowed to do things at the agency level to be able to utilize what's available today, and we have to be able to support those while we do it.
I'd like to also ask you to address the issue of privacy. We haven't talked a lot about that.
It's a great question. When we deploy a DFR program, having deployed one before, one of the most important things you do is you go to your community and you ask them, this is what we're looking to do. What are your concerns? I've done this many times for many communities. And what the common thread is, you ensure that the drone is only used to respond to calls for service.
In my few seconds, I would, later on we'll talk.
Sure.
Question to all of you. Government drones versus knuckleheads out there that are just, recreational, can't figure common sense that you shouldn't be flying these things in certain places. And those are the people we've got to figure out, number one, how to say, if you do this, there's going to be serious penalties, and number two, don't do it. So let's talk later on about developing a policy to educate folks, lack of a better term, in terms of what's right and what's not. Mr. Chairman, I'm out of time. Thank you very much.
The gentleman's time's expired. I now recognize from the state of New York, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Chairman. Once again, I want to go back to the technology and first responders. This time, Chief Fetterman, I have a couple of questions for you. First of all, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your service. My brother-in-law is actually a Buffalo fireman, so I have a unique perspective on the sacrifices families make on protecting our communities as firefighters. As this drone technology continues to advance, are drones being utilized for locating and triaging patients in maybe multiple casualty accidents prior to the arrival of healthcare units to potentially improve the time and quality of the care that you might provide as a first responder?
Thank you, Congressman Kennedy. Absolutely. Drones bring one of the purest abilities is that they're thermal imaging. So at night, when you may have a vehicle accident over the side where patients or victims may be thrown from the vehicle in a rural environment, or in scenarios where other aircraft can't fly, we absolutely utilize drones to look for search areas to identify if there's any additional patients that we can care for.
And similar to what law enforcement is dealing with and requesting actually here today is, our engagement in changing the law and regulations to allow them to utilize these drones more effectively for their work. Are there regulations that need to be changed for first responders, fire departments that utilize these drones as well?
Thank you. So when dealing with drone incursions into FTAs, we're very fortunate in the County of Orange to have a very good relationship with our federal partners through our fusion centers and our relationships with the JTTF. So on the law enforcement side, we collaborate very closely with our federal partners to look for those private drones that may be including into fire traffic areas. And they're very helpful in taking care of those, and that allows us to get our robust fleet of aircraft, fixed wing, rotary wing, back into the firefight. We're very fortunate under the leadership of Fire Chief Brian Finnessy to have a robust program, but also to have very good relationships with our law enforcement partners.
Thank you, Chief. And at this time, FEMA grants, such as assistance to firefighter grants, they do not allow the purchase of these drones. So is the access or lack thereof having a detrimental impact on your department, or would you suggest that as we're looking at funding for this technology across the country, we look at including that within those areas as well?
So certainly additional funding and support of American-made drones and the proliferation of that American-made technology is fantastic. In the meantime, we, the Federal Urban Search and Rescue Task Forces work very closely with all of their local partners when we have a national disaster. We work closely to collaborate and gather information, and there's really a partnership from the state, local, and federal level on local and national level disaster responses.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you all. Chairman, I yield back.
The gentleman yields. I want to thank the witnesses for their valuable testimony and the members for their questions. The members of the subcommittee.
If I may interrupt you, just wanted to, without objection, submit for the record a letter from the NFL expressing their concerns with threats posed by illicit unmanned aircraft systems.
Without objection. The members of the subcommittee may have some additional questions for the witnesses, and we would ask the witnesses to respond to these questions in writing. Pursuant to Committee Rule 7D, the hearing record will be open for 10 days. Without objection, the subcommittee stands adjourned.